On form, the National 500 shaped up as the year's most competitive stock car race. But as one might expect, the drivers couldn't agree.
I think there are probably about 20 cars that actually are completely capable of winning a race.
There's about 15 cars, I think, that's running awfully well.
There could be 12, 14 cars in the same lap lead here at the end of the race.
There's probably 10 cars here that's really capable of winning this race.
Whoever wins is going to really deserve it.
A huge field turned out for the race. When qualifying was over, David Pearson had the pole at over 161 miles an hour. Cale Yarborough, number 11, was alongside. Benny Parsons in car 72 and Lenny Pond in car 54 were in the second row. Donnie Allison and Cuckoo Marlin, cars number 1 and 14, were next. Then it was Harry Gant, Bobby Ellison, Richard Petty, Darrell Waltrip, and Buddy Baker as they took the green flag. But it was Pearson, the man who has won so many pole positions here at Charlotte, scooting into the lead in front of his arch rival, Cale Yarborough. Pearson drives for the Wood Brothers, a respected team in the famous Wood Brothers Mercury. And the race settled down at the beginning into a bumper-to-bumper competition. Pearson out front, Yarborough trying hard. Yarborough a charger, but because of the large amount of lap money posted, Pearson wanted to ride out front, which is counter to his style. He's a wait-and-see man, likes to take the lead late in the race, but when there's dollar signs attached to leading a lap, David will put his foot down. And that's what he did at Charlotte on this day. Pearson was in front. Yarborough was second. Benny Parsons in car 72 was third, falling a little bit behind as this huge crowd that came from all over the country to watch this classic stock car race reveled in the close competition. One of the factors that improved the competition is the resurfacing of parts of the raceway. It widened the groove, as they say in stock car racing, and it allowed cars to race side by side through the turns where in the past at great speed only one car could go. Here Yarborough battles for the lead with Pearson and noses ahead for one lap. Stock car racing, a classic mix of man at the wheel. David Pearson, Cale Yarborough, Benny Parsons, Donnie Allison, crew chiefs. Glenn Wood for David Pearson, Junior Johnson for Cale Yarborough, Hoss Ellington for Donnie Allison, and Jake Elder for Benny Parsons. Nameplates, Mercury, Oldsmobile, and Chevrolet. A true mix of sports, and some fans root for the driver, some root for the nameplate, and others have their favorite as the crew chief. And here, with the race well underway, it looks like a high-speed parade lap as the cars barrel into the main straightaway and down into turn one in bumper-to-bumper close competition. And Richard Petty, a man who's the king of the sport for many years, who has not won a race in over a year and a half, lies back in fifth place, trying very desperately to break a long losing streak. He's even changed the nameplate of his car, for years a Dodge exponent, and now driving a Chevrolet. And number 43, the Petty car, goes high on the track and moves into third place. And the Petty fans are liking what they're seeing on the racetrack right now. They call it the Candy Apple Red and Refrigerator White number 21. It's David Pearson in the lead. He's in the vanguard of a 12-car first echelon. Normally in stock car racing, the first echelon at this point of a race is 3 or 4, or at best a half dozen cars. At Charlotte, it was a dozen cars out front, and Bruce Hill put an end to it all halfway through the fourth lap when he spun his 05 car into the infield. It brought out the yellow flag, and it further tightened the competition. Whatever advantage anyone had was erased as the cars moved up close behind. We'll be back for more of the National 500 in 1 minute. So Richard Petty, suffering from a losing streak that extended over a year in length, is out in front, and Cale Yarborough trying to see to it the losing streak stays that way. And through the halfway point of the race, no one driver could establish clear-cut supremacy. Yarborough, who had the power to lead, started to fall back. He dropped 2 more positions here as Donnie Allison and David Pearson went by, as Allison and Petty fought for the lead, and it looked as though Yarborough might have trouble. Richard Petty was the man of the moment on the racetrack in the number 43 car, pushed hard by his former arch rival, Bobby Allison. And then Allison dove down low. Allison, who won the Daytona 500 this year, wants to finish up the 1978 season with a victory in the National 500 and edges ahead of Petty coming down the main straightaway. Meanwhile, Yarborough's car, faltering, starting to fall even further back, and then heads for the garage area. An engine change was called for to keep Yarborough in the running for the point championship, and the mechanics went to work on the car. On the track, it was Allison and Petty side by side, with Pearson a close third, and Dave Marcus in the number 2 car had moved up to the 4th place ahead of Donnie Allison in the number 1 car as the competition continued unabated on this 1.5-mile banked racetrack. And with the race 2/3 gone, no one driver could steal a march on the field. Mechanical trouble had knocked out Janet Guthrie, Buddy Baker, Neil Bonnet. Benny Parsons was out because of a minor accident. And the contestants for the lead in the last third were Bobby Allison in car 15, Richard Petty hanging in there in car 43, and David Pearson in the number 21 car. 3 of stock car racing's biggest names coming around this banked racetrack, wearing tires, throttle to the floor, over 150-mile-an-hour speeds on the racetrack, and the crowd eating up every moment of it. But things mechanical tend to break, and that's what happened to Richard Petty in car 43 as it gave out and he started to fall back. The fans along the straightaway, sick at Richard Petty, moaning as he pulled his car to the inside. The biggest disappointment of the Petty fans of the day as he headed for the pits in hopes of getting repaired. It wasn't to be, however, as Dave Marcus moved up. Allison and Pearson continued in their 2-man battle for the number 1 position and that $40,000 in first place money in this National 500 stock car race. In the pits, Richard Petty's crew tried hard to diagnose an ignition problem that was hard to find and impossible to fix. Cale Yarborough waited while his engine was changed in a remarkable time of 12 minutes. And with 2 of stock car racing's biggest names at rest in the pits, the balance of the field battled around the raceway at speeds over 150 miles an hour. We'll be back with more in 1 minute. And it was time for the last refueling stop, and Allison drove into the Butmore pit. 1 can of gas, a clean windshield, he was on his way. A tick of the watch under 5 seconds. 1-stop service, Southern style. He maintained his lead, but Pearson closed the interval. But he, too, had to make a pit stop. The Wood Brothers crew signaled him to come in next time around. The Wood Brothers crew, one of the more famous in racing, is noted for rapid-fire pit stops. Meanwhile, Cale Yarborough had gotten back on the track, 13 laps in arrears, was hanging in there to finish for the valuable points he needed for the national championship. And then Pearson steered the Wood Brothers Mercury down the backstretch and into turns 3 and 4, lining up on pit road to come down for his last service of the National 500. Into the pits he came. The famous Wood Brothers crew, they go to work. The clock starts, 1 can of gas goes in the tank, and away he goes, and the stop time almost identical to that of Allison's, under 5 seconds. But Pearson, in his anxiety, moved out of the pit road too fast. Allison, meanwhile, was closing up rapidly from behind. There's the interval. But then, as Allison drove down into turn 1, a sight for sore eyes as far as Bobby is concerned, a rare miscue on David Pearson's part. He spun out, flat-spotted his tires, and ruined any chance for victory. Bobby drafted by, putting Pearson a lap down, and gave himself the biggest lead that he enjoyed all race long. This also allowed Dave Marcus to move into 2nd place, Darrell Waltrip into 3rd, Donnie Allison in car number 1 into 4th position. So Allison had the pressure off, but he kept his foot down. Then, on the final lap, there was drama 2. As Allison headed for the checkered flag, Dave Marcus' car ran out of fuel, and Darrell Waltrip passed him to take over 2nd position. Bobby Allison, who won the Daytona 500 at the beginning of the season, had his foot to the floor on car number 15 to capture the National 500 at Charlotte near the end of the season. It was the 27th of 30 Grand National races. Allison's winning speed was 141.826 miles an hour. 102,000 people saw his victory, the largest fall crowd in the history of the Charlotte Motor Speedway. His margin of victory over Darrell Waltrip, 30 seconds. Dave Marcus was 3rd, Donnie Allison was 4th, and David Pearson was 5th. And as he headed for victory lane, he was a happy sort. It was his 5th triumph of the year. He was a little ashamed of his performance, though. He said he hit the wall, and he shouldn't have done that. Cale Yarborough went on to win the NASCAR championship. Bobby Allison was 2nd, Darrell Waltrip was 3rd, Benny Parsons was 4th, and Dave Marcus was 5th. Richard Petty limped home in 6th place. And so Cale Yarborough did what he set out to do, win a 3rd straight national championship, and with it $530,751. A great year for a great champion from Sardis, South Carolina.